The story begins with Mikey Tyson, a young boy living with his single mother and siblings. He finds himself in a dangerous situation one evening. While playing with friends, he ventures into a tough neighborhood and is pressured by older kids to shoot at a group of men playing basketball. Nervous and scared, Mikey fires the gun, causing chaos as everyone scatters, including the ones who pushed him into it. Terrified, he dumps the gun and rushes home, trying to calm down by spending time with his pigeons, one of his few sources of comfort in a difficult life. Several years later, in 1979, Mikey is now a teenager living in Catskill, New York. He's discovered by 3 boxing trainers, Teddy Atlas, Kevin Rooney, and the experienced Constantine "Cuss" D'Amato, who see him fight at a local boxing club. They are immediately impressed by his raw power and quickness in the ring, recognizing that this troubled young man has immense potential as a boxer. After a few training sessions, Cuss takes Mike home, introducing him to his wife Camille and asking if he can live with them to focus fully on his training. Although Camille is reluctant because she already has several trainees under her care, she eventually agrees, and Mike joins their household. Under Cuss's mentorship, Mike is placed on a strict training regimen. He wakes up early each morning for long runs to build his stamina and learns advanced boxing techniques. Cuss also spends his time educating Mike by showing him footage of legendary fighters, giving him pointers on how to become even better than them. The two bond, and Cuss becomes a father figure to Mike, shaping him both inside and outside the ring. However, Mike's life takes a tragic turn when his mother passes away. Heartbroken, he goes home for the funeral, but chooses to return to Cuss's home soon after to continue his training. Cuss, deeply empathetic to Mike's grief, comforts him and gives him a meaningful gift, an inspirational pin passed down from Muhammad Ali. He also informs Mike that he's qualified for the Junior Olympics in Colorado, which will take place in 1982. Before the fight, Mike is overcome with anxiety, doubting his abilities, but Teddy reassures him, calming his nerves just in time for the match. The fight itself is a short affair, only 8 seconds long, ending with Mike knocking out his opponent and setting a new Junior Olympics record for the fastest knockout. Mike is overjoyed by his success, and Teddy quickly calls Cuss back in New York to share the good news. Cuss is proud of his young protege's achievement. While Mike is in Colorado, Cuss discusses with his wife Camille the possibility of adopting Mike, to which she agrees. When Mike returns, Cuss offers him a place in their family, and Mike enthusiastically accepts. He is embraced by the D'Amato household and continues his boxing career under their guidance. As Mike's career advances, Cuss introduces him to Jimmy Jacobs and Bill Clayton, 2 experienced managers who have handled numerous successful fighters. They are impressed by Mike and agree to help guide his career. Meanwhile, Mike's behavior starts to show signs of his troubled past. One day, while driving through a rough part of New York with his friend Rory, Mike spots some girls he finds attractive and starts chasing after them. The girls, terrified, run away, but Mike refuses to back down, storming into local businesses, demanding to know where they are. He causes a major disturbance until police arrive, forcing him and Rory to flee. Back at the gym, Teddy becomes increasingly frustrated with Mike's lack of discipline, both in boxing and at school. He expresses his concerns to Cuss, urging him to be stricter with Mike. Cuss, however, defends Mike, believing in his potential and choosing to focus on guiding him rather than being harsh. But tensions escalate when Teddy learns that Mike made inappropriate advances toward his younger sister, Jimmy. Enraged, Teddy confronts Mike one night, physically pinning him down and threatening to shoot him if he ever disrespects his family again. When Mike brushes off the threats, Teddy fires a shot near him to show he's serious, scaring Mike. The next day, Cuss decides to fire Teddy due to his aggression, replacing him with Kevin Rooney. Mike continues his rigorous training and starts winning fights across the country. His victories earn him the nickname Iron Fist in the media, and his reputation as a rising star in the boxing world grows. During one of his competitions, Cuss begins feeling ill and leaves the arena early to go to the hospital. After the fight, Mike rushes to Cuss's side, devastated to find his mentor in critical condition. In an emotional farewell, Cuss passes away, leaving Mike deeply affected. Mike struggles to maintain focus and motivation without Cuss, but Jimmy Jacobs steps in from time to support him as he continues his career. On November 22, 1986, Mike faces Trevor Berbick in Las Vegas. He dominates the match, becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in history. This monumental achievement cements Mike's place in the history books, and he celebrates his victory with Kevin Rooney and the rest of his team. However, success begins to take its toll on Mike. He becomes irritable, difficult to be around, and starts mistreating Kevin, worrying the trainer that Mike is losing his drive. In a private conversation with Jimmy, Mike confesses that he's tired of the casual dating scene and wants to settle down. A few days later, he asks out a famous TV personality, Robin Givens, and she agrees to go on a date with him. On August 1st, Mike fights Tony Tucker in Las Vegas and invites Robin to watch. Initially distracted by her presence, Mike struggles in the first few rounds. However, during the break, Kevin reminds Mike that Robin came to see a champion, lighting a fire in him. Mike returns to the ring, dominates the rest of the fight, and wins, further solidifying his status as the undisputed world champion. Shortly after, Mike calls Camille to share the good news, but he is devastated to learn that Jimmy Jacobs has passed away, leaving him with a sense of loss once again. After the death of Jimmy Jacobs, Mike Tyson flies to California for the funeral. While waiting at the airport for his limousine, boxing manager Don King sees an opportunity to approach Mike. Don tries to exploit Mike's vulnerable state, encouraging him to cancel his upcoming fight and consider a more lucrative option after the funeral. Don also starts feeding negative stories about Bill Clayton, Mike's manager, to Robin Givens, Mike's girlfriend. This drives a wedge between Robin and Bill, which soon spills into the media, turning into a public feud. Don adds a racial angle to the situation, claiming that black men should stick together, hoping to sway Mike to his side. Eventually, Mike hires Don as his promoter while keeping Bill as his manager, although the tension between Don and Bill only grows. Don King, despite appearing friendly with Robin, harbors doubts about her true motives. He's particularly skeptical of her claim that she is pregnant. One day, Mike is devastated to learn that Robin has suffered a miscarriage. That same day, he shows up late for practice, which angers Kevin Rooney, who is determined to prepare Mike for his upcoming fight. Mike does some training, but then decides to quit early, which further frustrates Kevin. In an emotional confrontation, Kevin calls Mike out for his lack of professionalism and openly questions whether Robin was ever really pregnant. This enrages Mike, and he lashes out, using the training session to take his anger out on his sparring partners, severely beating them. This incident turns many people at the gym against him. On June 27, 1988, Mike faces Olympic champion Michael Spinks in Atlantic City. As the fight begins, Don King and Robin, along with her mother Ruth, send a legal notice to Bill informing him that he has been fired as Mike's manager and replaced by Don. Although devastated, Bill keeps the news to himself to avoid distracting Mike from the fight. With Kevin's support, Mike once again dominates the fight and wins, solidifying his status as a boxing legend. However, after the victory, Bill informs Kevin that they've both been fired, leaving Kevin disappointed as he quietly exits the boxing arena. Meanwhile, Robin's mother, Ruth, starts publicly claiming that Don King has helped Mike gain more control over his career. She also complains that Mike continues to pay for Camille's expenses, stirring further controversy. Robin and Mike later appear on a talk show, where Robin shocks the world by claiming that living with Mike is extremely difficult because he suffers from manic depression. She goes on to say that she can only stay with him if he changes, as she doesn't want to be in an abusive relationship anymore. A few days later, the police are called to the Tyson residence for a domestic disturbance. They find Miki agitated and verbally abusing Robin and her mother. Before the situation escalates, Mike storms off the property, calling Robin derogatory names. Deeply hurt by Mike's behavior, Robin takes her grievances public, announcing that she's filing for divorce. She shares several shocking stories about her life with Mike, further damaging his reputation. Don King seems relatively unfazed by the divorce and shifts his focus to booking more fights for Mike, including one in Japan. A few days later, Mike, hoping to relax and blow off steam, returns to his old neighborhood with his friend Rory. As they enjoy their time, several girls show interest in Mike, and hours later, a man approaches Mike, taunting him by claiming to be romantically involved with Robin. Enraged, Mike attacks the man, beating him up before fleeing with Rory to avoid the police. On February 10, 1990, Mike faces Buster Douglas in Tokyo. Now working with a new coaching team, Mike struggles throughout the fight. The chemistry between Mike and his new coaches is off, as they haven't yet figured out how to cater to his unique needs and preferences. Watching from home, Kevin Rooney is frustrated by Mike's performance, knowing that things would have been different had he still been in charge. During the fight, Douglas shocks the world by knocking Mike out, and Mike fails to get back on his feet before the referee counts to 10. Camille, watching the fight on TV, is heartbroken as she witnesses Mike's defeat. This fight goes down in history as one of the biggest upsets in boxing. Furious, Don King tries to find technical grounds to have the fight result overturned or repeated, but his efforts are in vain. Instead of returning to his mansion after the loss, Mike chooses to visit Camille and has a quiet dinner with her, seeking comfort in the familiar environment. Not long after, Mike attends the Miss America pageant at the Omni Hotel in Indianapolis. There, he meets some of the contestants and becomes particularly interested in Miss Washington, Desiree. In the middle of the night, Mike calls Desiree, asking her to join him at a party. Although hesitant because of the late hour, Desiree eventually agrees and joins Mike in his limousine. However, instead of going to the party, Mike tells her they need to stop by his hotel to pick up his bodyguard. The movie concludes with Mike being convicted of rape and sexually deviant behavior, for which he is sentenced to 6 years at the Indiana Youth Center. The film updates viewers that Mike was released from prison on March 25, 1995, and immediately announced his return to boxing. Despite Don King being charged with insurance fraud, Mike continues to work with him as his promoter. End the movie. Thank you for watching this recapping. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. I always love hearing from you, so feel free to leave a comment below with your thoughts or suggestions for future content. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.